Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Indie Film Cafe. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome show for you guys. We got my co-host with the Moostist.
That's right.
Here, what's your name, Mr. Co-host?
It's your old pal, the Moo Cow, aka Paul A Presenza. How's it going, everybody? Moo.
Oh, he loves to introduce himself like that. So there you go. So, and then we've got our special guest. How are you doing? Please introduce yourself.
John Ward, formerly known in middle school as the Holy Cow.
Yay! All the way from Vegas, baby.
Yeah. Remember, I told you guys that story of one of the halls that we did, where I used to have the jacket with the white on it, and I flip it around, and I was the Holy Cow, and I would bless people by mooing them.
There you go.
I'd walk up and go moo, and you'd be blessed.
That's awesome.
The way it should be.
You need to do that to Paul so you can be blessed more. You know, he'd be happy about that. So anyway, I was like thinking of what could I do, and I was telling John about this movie, Dahmer versus Gacy, and John was like, all right, well, when you do that movie, you got to have me on the show because I actually own that movie. Yes, there you go. See, well, we're a podcast, so you can't see it. But he's holding it up right now.
We are on a podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're going to do some clips for our many fans on TikTok, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll put it up there. So there you go. Sadly, Paul did not have one, but he has a chicken with him right now. So there you go.
I'm showing everyone my plastic cock.
Oh.
All right.
It's a pretty cock you got there.
Yeah, pretty big one, too.
That's what they say.
All right.
It's mighty yellow.
All right. So, Paul, you don't have a copy of this, but you did. What did you say? You got it at a garage sale?
I have a copy.
Well, right.
I just have a shitty burner copy that somebody made and sold at a garage thing for $1.
Oh, so it's a DVD. I thought for some reason it was like a...
right. I just couldn't find it, and I forgot. I thought I had like you guys did.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple movies like that. I forgot that they existed.
Well, there you go. Are those more for Indie Film Cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, we decided to do Dahmer versus Gacy, and everybody's seen it now, but we'll be back in a few minutes after some mood music. And we are back. So
Guernsey versus Holstein.
we saw this movie separately, and I have to say, like, it shocked me that John sent me a message saying he was bored by it. You know, and Paul sent me a message saying, yeah, he wasn't really all that into it. I absolutely adored this movie. And I'm going to tell you some little background about it before
before you get into the background, I'm going to tell you why you enjoyed it, and Paul and I kind of thought it was boring.
Okay.
There's no science
at all.
Remember, you told me that you, from watching Dracula 2, that you didn't like all the science. You wanted more vampire stuff.
Right.
And I liked it because there was science in it and less vampire stuff. So in this, there's no science. The clones are already made. There's no nothing.
It's a cartoon, man.
But see, that's
I think that's why you liked it and why we found it boring.
Well, that's how you get into that's how you get away with, because Paul, you know, we have these problems where you watch these movies that have the science in it and you're like, what? That makes no sense. You know, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. And it kind of destroys.
Well, that's because it's pseudoscience. It's not real science.
Right. There's no way that they would, actually, I mean, right now.
Well, no, well, you do the pseudoscience, you do the Star Trek babble that they do on the bridge and in the medical bay and all that stuff. And that sounds smart, but means nothing.
Or you avoid it altogether and just do the mystical, magical Pojab thing and just say it was magic and there's magic in this world and they just magically made them appear. I could buy that premise.
Okay, that's fair.
I prefer the cloning thing over a magic thing. I just wanted to see science. I just wanted them to actually clone them. I wanted to see them, and then they break out of the lab, something like that.
But go ahead, Moody. I know you're busting at the gut to get in the background.
Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the background. So, and the biggest reason why I really enjoyed this movie is because I like the writers of the film. The guy who did the story is Chris Watson. I first discovered him way back when, I think MySpace days, for a movie called Zombiegeddon. And I think I've had him and Andrew J. I'm going to butcher his name right now. It's like a Roush, who wrote the movie. But, Chris Watson did the story and he also produced it. And I think Andrew executive produced or he produced it himself too. But I talked to Andrew yesterday and I told him we were going to be, reviewing this movie. This was what he actually said to me, so I could put this in the thing. He said, "Thank you for letting me know. The thing to remember about D versus G and why it is the way it is was originally written for something that we could make for $500. But then, lo and behold, it got optioned. We also worked on a script for a tongue and further in cheek sequel titled Dahmer versus Gacy in Space. True story, So
in space,
So then I thanked him for that and said I'll definitely add that to the podcast and everything. And I got really excited. Andrew and Chris, I watched this movie called Zombiegeddon. It had everybody you could possibly think of. It had Conrad Brooks. It had Joe Estevez, Robert Zadar. I mean, just every B movie name.
Heard of it? I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, you need to see it. It's Trauma. Trauma put it out. It's got Lloyd Kaufman. It's fantastic. It's so over the top stupid. It's a lot of fun. And it's one of the few movies that I will definitely watch over and over again, but mainly with the commentary. And that was another thing that's kind of bummed out about.
You don't even like zombie movies.
I don't, but I like I said, I like zombie comedies. That was a zombie comedy.
Zombies.
Yeah, I like zombies. I don't like ones where they take themselves seriously and it's just, oh no, we're getting attacked by zombies.
I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's called Shaun of the Dead, then it's like, forget about it.
Yeah, well.
I kind of like them both as long as they're good.
Right.
I prefer more serious, but I could take comedy as long as it's done well. There's way too many stupid slapstick zombie movies out there.
There's too many bad comedy.
Well, because zombie is like the entry-level way of making a film. It is the lowest, easiest, cheapest way to make a horror film. So that's why there's just so many of them.
I mean, we just saw one that we reviewed for Short Film Saturday that was just a bunch of kids put makeup on their face, like really shitty makeup, and then went and pretend, it's 13 minutes of like little kids pretending to be, they were in their teens pretending to be zombies and stuff, and whatever, we can't knock it. They went out and made a fucking 13-minute movie and sold it or whatever, put it out. So they're
little zombie rascals.
Kind of pretty much. So there you go. But this movie, Dahmer vs. Gacy, so I'd heard of it, for the longest time. And I found it at Dark Delicacies in Burbank. And Del Howson, who owns Dark Delicacies, is actually the bum that gets killed by Gacy in the movie. And so he's in it. So I think he signed it.
A rat-eating bum.
A rat-eating bum. We'll get into that.
The plastic rat-eating bum.
I enjoyed that though. I had a fun time because it was, but we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, it was, I saw it. I think, what did I pay for it? Paid $11 for it because I hadn't seen it anywhere else. And as far as I knew it was out of print or something, because it's very hard
trust
to
me,
find.
it's hard to find. If it weren't for the fact that I found my little garage sale burn version, I wouldn't be able to watch it except like a sketchy Russian place where they overtalk the whole thing. Not that it would have hurt this movie, but you know what I mean.
Might have enhanced it. You never know. But I just had a fun time with it. I don't know. I liked all the actors in it. There's a couple cameos, people I knew. Melissa Rose, who I adore, and she was in Zombiegeddon, so they'd already worked together. So I absolutely loved it and had a fun time. And that is, I guess, going into the background. Let's go into the story for it. So who wants to sum up the story? John, would you like to try?
Sure. First, I'll start off because I will bash the film, but I will say I thought that it was well made. I thought that the acting was fine. I thought like the directing and the sets and everything, like the locations, it was just too long. It was just it really kind of bogged it down. If it was maybe 80 minutes,
they cut out a lot of stuff or something.
There's a lot of repeat.
Like comedy needs to be quick.
Yeah, there's if somebody is firing a gun, they fire it like 20 times. I mean, you only need to do it like 2 or 3. So, but that was my big thing, is they could have cut it down.
It seemed pretty choppy. It felt like there were parts that were filmed, months apart at least. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess I don't want to butt in on your time, John. Go ahead.
Well, so basically, it's Dahmer vs. Gacy are clones of the original killers that are going to be used by the military. They escape from the facility and go on a serial killing spree in LA. And there is surprisingly the guy who plays Tuvix from Star Trek Voyager is sent after them, and he's like a serial killer himself. I'm assuming he's a made up one because he's just called, what is it, like X13?
X13.
Yeah, so I don't think he's meant to be a real, like based on a real guy. He goes after him. There's other people that go after him. Wasn't a big fan of the jacket with a Confederate flag on the back, but
well, I mean,
that
kind of set up his character. I mean, that was his character. He was like this redneck.
I would make it more of a redneck. I would just go all out. I mean, if you're gonna have him have that on the back of his coat. I mean, granted, Trump, this is 2010, and Trump's not president or anything, but I would have gone all redneck. Yeah.
No.
I was sending a message to Moody. I was like, they totally took that character from a Clutch song, A Shotgun Named Marcus, which is about a redneck samurai who talks to God.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know. And that was 1993.
So maybe they got their inspiration from that. We're not sure.
Possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
But the thing is that, in Clutch's chance, they established that character in a 2.5 minute song, a lot more than what happens in this particular film, unfortunately. But
I did find it funny though that the redneck who is would be a Trump supporter these days, it's God is in his head. It's not like a liberal or something, that it is the total redneck conservative guy has God talking to him, and of course God is telling him things that are bad. So I thought that was, there are things in this I like. I mean, it just dragged and I just saw that is it Ford Austin? Am I saying his name right? Yeah, Ford Austin just accepted my friend request today.
Oh, so that's nice.
Yeah, so I'm letting him know I don't hate the movie or anything. I just think it could have been shorter. But I liked, of course, William, Malone. How can you,
Randall Malone.
Randall Malone. Thank you.
William Malone is the director of
Scared.
I thought it was a House on Haunted Hill or something, like the remake.
Yeah. He also did Scared to Death, and he's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So, Randall Malone, actor Randall Malone, and I mean, you gotta love it just because I think that's why I bought it, was because he was in it. So
yeah, and I think that's why I got it too, was when I saw that he was in it. And once again, I'd heard of it. Plus, how can you turn down a movie called Dahmer versus Gacy? I mean, like, either way, even if it's a boring movie like you think it is or whatever, I mean, it's still they put that into a movie. I think I was telling a friend of mine who's a horror fanatic that I'm watching this, and she got really upset that she can't watch this movie on streaming, because, and I think it deserves like so I know I mentioned this to Paul, but at the end credits it says Eric or it says Spudik's movie Empire. Burbank, like a thanks to that, not Burbank, Van Nuys, where he was. So apparently they shot there, and at Eric Spudik's old video store. Well, apparently I talked to Eric and I sent him that, and Eric said that it was a cut scene, that they shot there, and he was wishing that it would come on Blu-ray, at some point, with like the deleted scenes and other stuff,
Yeah, this is really disappointing. I mean, it just gives you an option of stereo or surround.
Did you notice that the surround sound doesn't work?
No, I just went on to stereo because I can't imagine that this says, I mean, it's not stars or dart or something. So
well, it actually sounded really good in my surround sound on stereo. So I don't know what happened, but
I played it on my surround, but I didn't do it in surround. I did the same thing as you. So yeah.
All right, my turn. Okay, so much like Moody has said, the name of the movie grabs you. You can't help it that. I mean, that's the reason why when I saw it with a bunch of burned movies at a garage sale, I'm like, oh, how can you pass that up? I'll pay for $1 for that. Sure, it's a homemade burned copy, but so what? And it sat with a bunch of other ones in a box that I never got to. And when I moved, it just got put someplace. And I totally forgot about it. But I kept thinking, I know I've got that movie, and I couldn't find it. And then finally I went to the box, and there it was with a bunch of other ones that I also bought. So yeah, it's got a good title. I thought the story was pretty bad, though, pretty weak. It was very, very weak sauce. It's like they didn't really put any effort into the story about stuff. Things like they keep referring to Charles Manson as a serial killer. Charles Manson's not a serial killer. He never killed anybody. Not a single
in fact,
person.
That's at the end too. They have him killing people, killing somebody, and I'm like, wait a minute, because Darren Miller plays him at the end, and Darren Miller is Felissa Rose's husband, and he has a scene where he kills somebody at the end as Charles Manson, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like that wouldn't, even if they cloned Charles Manson, he would just get somebody else to go do it.
Yeah, tell a bunch of stupid, smelly, drugged out hippies to go and do it for him.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm such a geek. Like I've watched a lot of Dahmer stuff, so I thought, the guy looks pretty close. Of course, who's the director, and I thought, okay, well he's pretty close. And I'm watching right now on Netflix the John Wayne Gacy documentary that's on there. So I thought, okay, the costume looks pretty close. With Charles Manson I'm like, did Charles Manson ever have a goatee? I think he only had a beard, and he does. There's pictures on Google where he just has it's like, looks like it's one black and white photo session, which might have been in the police department or something like that. But he does have a goatee. It's not, unless it goes way down here and up, but it looks like it just cuts off like right here.
Well, and then the other thing is, of course, I don't like slash movies to begin with, but in particular, I don't like serial killer movies because they don't know how to do serial killers properly. Serial killers are not people who just kill a bunch of people. There's psychological reasons behind all that never get touched in this. Because if it was just people killing a bunch of people, then every soldier who's ever been in combat would be considered a serial killer just because they killed a bunch of people. That's just not the way it's done. But the movie's not there to give you that kind of a thing. The movie is a cartoon, okay? And that's fine. I can accept that as long as the cartoon is fun and quick and interesting. And unfortunately for me, it was none of those things. I couldn't wait for it to end. I had no interest in any of the characters. I hated all the characters. It was just goofy shit. A lot of continuity issues. God makes him go dig a hole to find this sword. You're going to use this sword to kill the two horrible, horrible serial killers. What happens? He shows up. He's got no sword. He never uses it. doesn't even kill those guys. He just uses the one shotgun on X-13.
I forgot he had the shotgun at the end. He didn't even have the sword.
No.
Yeah.
Like, what was the whole point of that then?
No, then all these ridiculous
probably because
ninjas.
the ending was shot first, and then they said,
Yeah.
"Shit, our movie's short. Let's go back out and reshoot."
Yeah, it's exactly what I meant as far as them being in different days, different months, and stuff later on. There was definitely problems with that. I couldn't stand the worthless, incompetent ninjas. They're just like ridiculously bad.
I don't know. That scene with him fighting the ninjas with the sword and everything, that was fun. I don't know. I had a fun time watching that. I don't know.
It was weak sauce.
It was fun. I don't know. I was enjoying it, and I was enjoying the montage. Basically,
I was thinking, man, we made fun of Todd Sheets with his fighting and the prehistoric bimbos in Armageddon City. This was about the same.
I don't know. I thought it was a step above that, but whatever. I enjoyed it.
Well, there's other people in this too. So there's we got. I noticed there's Ethan Phillips, of course, who was Neelix, and then we got Jed Rowan.
Jed Rowan, the amazing Bulk himself, is in this movie.
Yeah, I know him as Axe Grinder, and
he was like a soldier though. He has kind of a smaller part.
Yeah, Alicia Dowling.
Alyssa Dowling, yep.
Alyssa Dowling, yeah. Felissa Rose, like you mentioned.
Well,
but Art LaFleur. It's like, how the fuck did you get him to be in your movie?
Yeah, he's been a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
My God, I mean, that right there is you're adding, a level.
Replicator, man. He was in Replicator.
Yep.
He's in a ton of stuff. He's in Big, Low, Good, Bad. I mean, it was weird seeing him in this. But I noticed on IMDb, because looking up some stuff, and I don't know who she was supposed to play. I mean, it does give a name, but it says Debbie Rochon is listed in the cast.
She was definitely not in this movie.
She's definitely not in this movie.
Unless she got a scene cut or something. But then why would you do that? Why would you cut any scene with Debbie Rochon?
I mean, I don't know. Once again, if they get a Blu-ray of it, it'd be awesome. But
the worst problem I had with this film is that it reminded me of very, very much about that Texas Clown movie that you and I disliked and got in trouble for reviewing. The same kind of lazy shit where, these guys just wander around in daylight and do whatever the hell they want with no consequences, no repercussions, no police ever show up. Nobody can find them, and yet they're walking around in fucking clown suits. And they're not being very inconspicuous.
Well,
Mr. Ward, you said they were in LA. I don't think they were, because they talked about on the one guy on the TV comes out and says, there have been these crimes in Milwaukee and Chicago, which is where those guys were. So they were actually there, I think, but they were showing pictures of that was clearly California with palm trees and such. So they didn't even get the setting fucking right. So to me, it was just sloppy.
There was
not just a clown suit. Look, you had Dahmer going around in a prison suit
with numbers on it.
Yeah.
Nobody can find them. Well, nobody apparently is trying very hard.
So, so another actress that's in the movie is Bonnie Aarons, who's actually the nun in the movie The Nun. She got a really big part. There's Erwin Keyes, who's been in like Oblivion and a bunch of other big time movies, The Warriors and a bunch of other stuff. I believe there's let's see, Jerry Marin, who was the mime in the movie, the little person mime.
I hate mimes. I hate fucking mimes.
I love that. Like, I had so much fun with that. Like, I
love the guy who plays like the police captain who's doing the interview and like half of his teeth are missing.
Yeah, there's a lot of like cool like little and Brooke Lewis. Well, I guess her full name is Brooke Lewis Bellas now, but she plays remember they turn on the conservative redneck guy turns on the television and sees like a Christ is Tammy Hart, and
yeah
that was her, and so she did such a fun job with that. Like it seemed like so these guys really pretty much make like had cameos for all these people the way that like a lot of times back then people did, where they would ask them to just film something themselves and then they would put it in the movie, and everything. So I believe that's what they like did with her and a couple other people.
There were a few things that I liked, like when they had the guy, the newscaster. I don't know if you read any of the news scrawl that was going under that.
I read
That was the best part, where they were making fun
I didn't find any of that funny.
Michael Bay and some of the other stuff. Some of that was all right.
It's all movie related. It's like you're a news station. Put up some stuff like, bombs dropped on Iraq or something like that. But make it funny. To me, it was like it was all film stuff, and none of that stuff was. But, all those people are also, like Felicia Rose, were all shot in front of a green screen.
Yeah. They had an opportunity where they could have made an interesting and funny and biting social commentary about why all these girls and all these people were rooting for the the serial killers, and why you could make a comment about how people will latch onto whatever the latest stupid fad happens to be, even if it's ridiculous serial killing by clone idiots and all. But they didn't really do that,
right?
Because it takes more effort and more creativity, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I think when they originally planned it, they were just planning on making this little goofy movie. They weren't planning on it being bigger and having bigger stars in it,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So now it sort of, to me, I think when I read that he said that to me and everything, it put things into perspective before I watched it, because then I could look at it and go, okay, now I see where it got bigger budget, right? So they were like, okay, now we actually have a budget, so we have to take this little movie that probably would have been just Dahmer and Gacy out, and killing people or whatever, and then and take it and make it a little bit bigger. I did like the newscast stuff, because sometimes it took away from the movie. Sometimes I hate that, but I actually had a good time with this one. I don't know. It made me laugh a little bit. So
the bigger budget helped in that the production values were all there. We could see it. How many movies have we seen where we couldn't fucking see half the shit?
Talking about that all the time, yeah.
We could hear it. How many movies have we seen where we're like, what the fuck are you saying? The music was good. Some of the direction I thought was decent. Some of the sets were kind of shit, but there were other ones that were all right. It was a mix.
Oh, and I forgot to mention one of the biggest stars of this fucking movie. I bet you didn't even realize. So the guy that goes and gives the blowjob in the fucking bathroom or whatever for whatever it was, that's a Guns N' Roses guy. He was a band member for Guns N' Roses. So it cracks me up that like that was sort of what they were saying, because they called him Stevie. That was his name. Yeah. So they were like pretty much saying like this guy's so broke now from Guns N' Roses that he has to give blowjobs in the bathroom to get his drugs or whatever, and stuff. And I thought that was sort of funny. However, since you guys didn't know that, didn't know who he was, I didn't know who he was until I looked him up. I wouldn't even thought about that.
The other thing is there was a lot of like kind of gay bashing humor in the film too that I don't think would fly today.
Maybe a little bit, but I didn't notice much. Like
there is a lot of gay stuff, but we're also dealing with two serial killers who are gay. So
like they kill that one guy, the neighbor, who just pops over and he's deaf. So I can just imagine some people were going to be triggered over that too. And just, there's a lot of referring to butt sex and blowjobs and stuff like that.
I mean,
I thought it went a little over when Dahmer was talking to X13 and it was all about butt fucking. It was just like, really, you can't sit there and just I'm gonna fuck like, your eye socket. Why is it all butt fucking?
X13 and the corn. Like it was just like, did you have like nothing else to establish his character? Just take some corn and use corn.
it was funny. It was like the corn of the cob killer or whatever, you
Well,
know.
that's why I was thought like, is this based off of something? So I tried to look it up, and it's like, I guess not. But and I almost felt a little bit sorry for the actor who played Neelix with that, because that's like, dude, you were on like a hit TV show for 7 years.
I know.
You know, and now you're like killing people with corn. I mean, I would
It's
like
not
to have
even
him in one of
Corn
my
Man.
films.
I don't look.
Yeah.
What was funny to me was that like he shoved the corn, I guess, in what is it, Gacy's mouth and killed him that way. And I thought, I don't know, that was, to me, that was a pretty interesting death to see. I don't know.
Let me ask you guys something, and this is a serious question, because, like, okay, I'll use another movie as an example, The Wolf of Wall Street. Everybody loved it. It's Martin Scorsese, you know, it's this great film. We all laugh at it. We thought it was hilarious. I then watched a documentary about the guy. The film is not funny. This guy destroyed lives.
He was a massive
People
asshole.
committed suicide because of him.
Mm-hmm.
So should we be making or enjoying movies about serial killers and mass murderers and you know, that have destroyed lives and taken lives, and sit there and say, hey, I have this great idea for a film called, you know, Dahmer vs. Gacy. This is going to be awesome. Or is it okay to do that? Because it's,
if you're kind of making fun of it, or you're making some kind of biting social commentary, I think you can. It's just, in this case, they didn't really do that. I kept thinking, is like, who is going to, aside from Mr. Moody, who else is going to enjoy this other than somebody who is rooting for serial killers in this case?
Right.
Like, why would you root for them?
Well, I don't know. See, that's the same thing as, why would you root for Jason, right? In the Friday the 13th movies.
But at least Jason is some kind of mythical thing. I mean,
yeah, it's all fake.
It's not real.
They start, I don't know if they still do it, but in prisons, they actually play horror movies for the inmates, like the mass murderers that are in prison for life. And they say that they root for the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it calms them down.
The number one prison rental for a long, long time in prison in America was that fucking what's the one with the midget, and where they're like killing women, and that's all they do is kill women. That's really Grand Guignol style.
Oh, you're not talking about the one you hate?
Yes, that's the movie I hate.
The Blood-Sucking Freaks.
Blood-Sucking Freaks. It's like the number one prison rental, because all it is total misogyny, just killing women because fun, I guess. I don't know. Like, why are you putting me into that audience? I don't think that's fun.
Well, really? It's the same thing as everybody likes those extreme horror movies that we're going to eventually do a podcast about. People really do like them, you know?
Yes, but they're not all torture porns. They're not all torture porn. It's a very different. It's the way that it's used. You're not sitting there glorifying it. You're using it in a very, very different way. And that's kind of one of the things I'm going to talk about, that, because I don't like torture porn. I think that sucks. But some of these other movies are not, they may have torture in it, but that's not the point of it. Okay?
No.
See, that's the thing is, I disagree. I'm on the Tarantino line that I like to use. I disagree with your, what is it, Moody? I disagree with your
hypothesis.
I just completely disagree with the torture porn thing, because it was one critic who said it to Hostel, and then it got applied to everything. Saw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all of a sudden everything is torture porn, and it's not torture porn. It was for one movie, and you guys decided to label it on everything. And it isn't. Saw is not torture porn,
and neither are the movies that I'm going to be talking about. That's where I'm kind of drawing the line. But there are movies out there where clearly the whole thing is for people to get their jollies off of the killing of innocent people, and that, you know, very slowly and very horribly, and for nothing, you know, for not even for a story's purpose. It's just to watch, you know, gory effects. And people suffering. Where's the fun in that? You know, it's just ugh.
I don't know. I think it's different when you're doing a Freddy versus Jason compared to a Dahmer versus Gacy. Kind of like what's his face who does the Last Days of Nicole Simpson and the Haunting of Sharon Tate. What is it, Daniel Farrard?
Yeah, Farrard, I think.
Yeah, the Amityville Murders, where he does exploit. And I'd love to get him on One Filmmaker so I could talk to him about this stuff. Is that he does take real life stuff and exploits it. And especially if you've seen the Amityville Murders, it's like, okay, now all of a sudden magic is involved and things are flying around the room and all that type of stuff. And it's like, to me, I have a bigger problem with it if it's based on somebody real than I do if it's made up like Freddy or Jason or Leatherface. But right. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I do like Ed Gein, and there are Ed Gein movies I like, and so I am a little bit of a hypocrite when it comes to that.
Gein. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, why do you like him?
Oh well, no, I like movies that are based on him.
Oh, I was gonna, I think me and Paul were both thinking, wait, what, you like him? You know, like you.
I dated him. I asked.
You agree with his politics?
I go to my Ed Gein cosplay every weekend.
Yeah, I put on a fake bodysuit of a woman and I dance in the moonlight, to it.
Oh,
so but you have ones that are like for Ed Gein that are so off track where you have, like what's his face who played Jason plays him. And it looks nothing like him at all. And
it's okay, John. I like Albert Fish. I mean, there haven't been too many movies about him, but if anything, he was probably the most blood curdling one of all. He's the one who ate that poor little girl and then wrote to her parents and said, "Your daughter tasted delicious. Do you have any more? Please send more."
That's so messed
up. I don't know.
He wasn't kidding. He was serious.
I kind of like the BTK killer, or whatever. I like Dennis Rader, because it was the stuff that they showed in like the movies and everything. Kane Hodder played him and Ed Gein.
Kane Hodder, yes, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
and
he looks nothing. Stephen Railsback looked a lot closer to what Ed Gein looked like. So
yeah, well, I mean, I think at that time, the director of the Ed Gein Butcher of Plainsfield, I think was the title. Yeah. That guy did a lot of those movies. He did one on Richard Speck. He did, I think he didn't do a Dahmer or Gacy one, but he did, some other ones. And that guy probably was like, oh, I can get I could get the guy who plays Jason to play one of the most infamous serial killers, and I think he might have also done the BTK one, but he looked more like Dennis Rader than he ever did Ed Gein. And I thought he did a great job.
So I guess it's hard to say then, because like I'm obsessed with Jim Jones, and one of my bucket list films is to make a Jim Jones movie. And I absolutely hate, because I don't want to make it sound weird, everything with Jim Jones, of how he manipulated all these people to go down to Guyana and then, had them drink Kool-Aid.
I was going to say, please tell me you're going to get this sponsored by Kool-Aid.
That would be funny. But it's I mean, I don't know. I mean, I watch all the documentaries on him and all that.
Gallows humor is an effective way of coping. A lot of people don't really like the violence or the disgust or the horror of that kind of stuff. So when you do it as a comedy, it's a way of dealing with it. Just like, you have comedians who will make fun of stuff that's really, really bad and horrible. It's not because they enjoy it. It's because it's a way of deflating it and making it, instead of a taboo subject, it's something that you can talk about. You can have fun with it. Not fun with it, but you can, you can approach it.
I think we know what you're talking about. That's funny. Yeah, I agree. I think.
This is meant to be a comedy. So this is,
this is sort of making fun of what would happen.
I mean, I did laugh when Charles Manson showed up at the end. I thought that was kind of funny. I wouldn't mind seeing another one like Manson versus somebody.
Oh,
yeah, they got to put
Manson versus Bundy.
A lot more writing effort for me to want to watch anything like that again. It was very superficial and cartoony for me. It just didn't.
Well, I think once again, that was the better thing to go with, is the cartoony aspect. as opposed to like making this like feel like a real movie, and then we're glorifying serial killers.
And that's a way you can definitely do it, but you better make it a lot more fun. I didn't really have much fun. You had fun. I did not.
I really did. And I'm sorry you guys didn't. I was kind of disappointed. Then I saw
I'm in the middle.
I saw what is it? Bloodbath and Beyond did a review and they called it boring. And I was like, what is, because you said it first, John, you said this was boring, then Bloodbath and Beyond, and then Paul had told me he didn't really dig it that much. You know, you kind of found it boring too. And I was like, I don't see it, because from start to finish, I was hooked. I don't know. I guess there's certain people that would enjoy it a little bit more.
Everybody's different. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's all subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really dug it.
But it isn't when I'm right.
And I'm not going to sit there and say, don't go out and watch this movie, because just like Moody, you might find it funny. You might enjoy it. You might not.
I can compare it to I couldn't compare it to the one we got in trouble for saying or whatever that we didn't like, because even then I didn't find it. I found that one to be too brutal and too nasty. You know,
what is it? What is the one?
I'll tell you later. I don't want to say it.
Moody doesn't want to say and get in trouble.
I don't want people thinking that that shouldn't go watch it, because a lot of people do like it. But I'll tell you later. You'll probably
But isn't that the whole thing with these reviews? I mean,
Yes.
All right, fine. I'll say it, but I mean, it's not like they're probably the people.
Maybe I've seen it. So
it's called Circus of the Dead, and it's made in It was made in Texas, and Bill Oberst Jr. is in it, and it just felt to me like a little bit too Rob Zombie-ish. And we even talk about, we said like people love it, and maybe it just wasn't for us. That was our review, right? Pretty much.
So it wasn't our cup of tea.
Yeah, it wasn't our cup of tea, but other people.
But that's not you. That's the filmmaker having an issue. I mean,
exactly.
I had a woman call the first Axis film an abortion, and I laughed my ass off, and I shared it on Facebook. And somebody messaged me saying you shouldn't share that because it might hurt the actor's feelings. And I'm like, fuck it. If you can't laugh at a reviewer, a woman reviewer calling my film an abortion, then maybe you shouldn't be in the industry, because I thought it was hilarious. I
gotta have a tough skin.
Yeah, like what did Maximus do to you? I mean, the chick wins at the end. She decapitates Santa and she walks out.
Maybe
I mean, come
Santa's
on.
the one getting aborted.
But like I said, like Circus of the Dead to me was just too brutal and sort of, and it did follow the same thing of like the cops weren't being called, or nothing was, there's nothing like that.
Everything went in their direction. There's nothing they couldn't do. It was just too easy. Easy. Same thing.
But it wasn't like, it's different because like,
it's different because the Circus of the Dead took itself too seriously, and that made it worse.
And this
one at least knows that it's a cartoon and it's trying to have fun. Yeah,
I mean, it had fun, and the one thing I didn't like is that Randall Malone didn't speak till the end of the movie, and I love it when he talks. Like I just like I first introduced Paul to Randall Malone in a movie called what was that one we watched? It was the one that Stephanie Beaton did. Whatever it was. We watched something.
New Orleans one.
Yeah, and we both loved it. And I didn't love it, but we thought it was fun. We laughed. And Randall Malone was the best part. And Randall Malone honestly was the best part of this movie too, to me. Like he's just always so much fun. He knows how to make a he's larger than life. He's larger than life.
Look, they shot at his house, it looks like, too, his mansion.
Well, I mean, that's what he's always like, hey, he does that in almost every movie. I think Ron Ford did that for a bunch of movies with him.
Yeah, I saw something on YouTube with him, and I think I mentioned this to Jonathan, but like he used to be on MTV.
Yeah, and Singled Out or something.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he was always known,
I
and I
never watched
should
it,
look it
so.
up, but I'm not getting it right. But it's always like the award-winning actor Randall Malone, or the fabulous actor, like you have to say
Yeah, I
the
remember you were saying that.
whole
He's entitled.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you say his name, and they were doing that all on MTV whenever they introduced him, and it was pretty funny.
Right.
And you just wouldn't think, like, why would like a 15-year-old who watches MTV like Randall Malone? But I guess they did, because he was on there for a while.
Well, he's just, he's probably every big kid's dream. He's a star who,
it's MTV. It's corporation. They're going to push whoever they want, and whoever they want you to like, you're going to like.
Well, those the same thing. I actually know the guy. There's this guy, a kid. Well, he's not a kid. He was older than me. He's older than me. A guy named Andy Milanakis, but he looks like a 12-year-old kid, but he's not. Or whatever. He's got like the thing where you look, like younger, or whatever.
Porphyria? Is that what it's called?
I don't know what it's called.
Benjamin Button disease.
Yeah.
He's aging backwards.
I don't know, but he was, he got famous, and all of a sudden he had his own MTV show called the Andy Milonakis Show, which actually lasted 2 or 3 seasons, and he, they pushed him because, they knew like kids would be like, oh my God, it looks like a kid on television, like, and he acted like a kid. He did silly stuff, or whatever on purpose. But he was like in his 30s at the time, or 40s.
Did you notice one of the scrolls was talking about they were reshooting back-to-back one of these movies, and it's starring Vern Troyer. And I was like, ew, poor Vern Troyer's not with us anymore. And the kids who are going to watch this movie today, they're not even going to know who that is.
Wait, what?
Weird.
Yeah,
Vern Troyer was listed in one of the news scrolls as one of the remakes.
Well, that was in 2010. So I mean, right? Are you talking about for this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he? He was alive then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and plus, most people that watch these movies today, they won't get any of the references. There are a lot of like little jokes and little, like things that they poked fun of that I was like, oh no, that's so dated. Like nobody's gonna get that, and that's the problem with putting jokes and stuff that would be funny at that time, right, that nobody's gonna get now.
It's gonna just date it, instantly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's somebody actually told me, if you're gonna do comedy, don't put any pop culture references in your film.
Don't make any Yahoo Serious jokes, because no one's gonna get it.
Nobody wants Yahoo Serious. That's
or Carrot Top, or whatever.
He's out here in Vegas.
Yeah, I was about to say, when I was in Vegas, he was still headlining the shows out there.
He's still headlining them today. I bumped into him at the supermarket.
He's all buff now.
You bumped into Carrot Top?
Yeah. He didn't say sorry or anything. We were it was late, and I was at a supermarket, and I was turning the corner, and he was turning a corner, and we were like, it was like, oh, like that. He like walked right past me. He's like, what the fuck? And I look, and it's just this big haired guy, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking Carrot Top. Just walked right into me.
Did you say, fuck you, Carrot Top?
Fuck you, Carrot Top. Fuck you and your carrot.
That's a great scene you got to put in one of your movies where a character does that and he gets in a fight in a supermarket with Carrot Top. How awesome would that be?
Well, the same thing happened to me with Dustin Hoffman. When Hook came out, I was at the LAX, and a friend of mine at the time and I were waiting, and all of a sudden this guy bumps into me, and I was holding something in my hand. I forgot exactly what it was, and I dropped it, and I leaned down to pick it up. He's like, I'm sorry. And he like hands it to me, and I look up, and it's Dustin Hoffman.
He's a little guy though, isn't he?
Yeah. So it was, and then he kind of walked off, but he hit right into me.
What is up with you, dude? You keep just bumping into people, man.
I do.
Vegas.
I'm a big guy.
Well, you said it was LAX, right?
That was LAX with Hoffman, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, you're just going to randomly bump into people now.
It sounds like you're going to probably bump into one of the Gacy or Manson clones at some point.
As long as they don't kill me.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
I mean, that Lake Mead is drying up, man. All kinds of bodies are popping up out of there.
Oh, it's yeah. We not to get off topic, as I say to Jonathan. But yeah, Lake Mead is pretty much gone, and now we have all these people bringing their boats in to store in our storage facility because they have no place to put them. There's
And
no
all
water.
the serial killer victims are popping up.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
There you go. There's your next movie, John. You know, serial killers. Because that's your next Axmas right there. You know, like the people are bringing in their dead bodies. There's a serial killer storing their dead bodies in the storage facility. So there you go.
Well, you got to wonder where they all went. So
they have to go somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they can't just disappear. Well, unless you put like a bunch of chemicals on them and just, whatever. But
you know way too much about this, Moody.
Well, I don't know the science of it all.
You just know it works.
There you go.
I just know it works. I just know if you don't talk about the science, it exists, and it just happens. And I'm not bothered by it at all, and to go back to this movie once again, like you said in the beginning, that I probably liked it more because they didn't have to concentrate on the science.
They didn't have science.
I think a lot of that is the cartoony side of it, is like that just kind of exists. But Bloodbath and Beyond brought up a really good point, which was they didn't understand why the characters had to leave the facility that they were in to go find the guy when he was in the same facility that they were in to begin with.
Right.
Why did they have to go find his home? They could have just killed him at the facility.
Same thing with the Japanese ninjas that are supposed to be going after Gacy and Dahmer. Instead, they go after fucking Ringo. Why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what any of that point was. And like, if there was like some kind of explanation of like the samurai sword that he had, like brought them, or whatever. That was like a beacon that they, you know what I mean? That they could, whatever magical thing.
It's just too sloppy for me.
Yeah. But like you guys said, a lot of it probably was written later and fixed up, and they had to add things.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was like Ringo and God. When they first start off, God's kind of like God, and Ringo's this pathetic, booze swinging redneck jerk. But then the middle part where they're in the car and they're driving, it's like they switch. And Ringo's asking like real questions, like cogent questions, and God is just being an asshole about everything. And then it switches again, and then he's back to the old Ringo when he finally gets there, and he doesn't even have the sword. And it's like, okay, did they shoot the end and the beginning around the same time?
Probably.
Not the middle, like months later?
Right. And Harlan Williams did the voice of God, and I thought that was pretty funny. Rocket Man himself. Harlan Williams. Rocket Man is this terrible movie he made in 1997 that
Disney movie?
Yeah, remember that? It's like farting and stuff in space or some shit.
I thought it was actually kind of funny. That's him. He did it.
He was in that.
I liked him screaming like a little girl. I thought it was hilarious.
Not a single fart joke in this movie. Come on.
What? How dare they?
I know. They were. That I think maybe you would have liked it more, Paul and John, if there had been fart jokes in this movie, but they're just.
Well, I think they said we could have like 4 fart jokes and 4 like butt fucking jokes. Well, let's just get rid of the fart jokes and we'll just put in like 8
nothing but jokes. Nothing but butt fucking jokes.
Yeah, no farts, no boobs. It was like there was some butt biting, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, all in all, I think a lot of what I don't know. It's just a movie that I could watch over and over again. I'm sorry.
Geez, seriously?
Yeah.
That's what was my reaction.
I know. Like I told him this earlier, and Paul was like, "What? You can't believe that." I liked this movie a lot. I really did. I enjoyed it.
I mean, if somebody was said, let's get some alcohol and a beer or something like that, and let's sit down and watch it, and I could probably do it again. But I don't see this. I've owned this movie for like a year or so, and I never watched it. I just got it because it's.
Where did you get it?
Title.
Where did you get it?
Great title.
I think I probably bought it off of Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, see, it's one of those things where you see it. Like I said, I saw it at Dark Delicacies. It was 12 or $11, and I thought that's actually not a bad price for a movie that I was very hard to find,
Yeah.
and
I
stuff.
will bring up the point that you mentioned earlier, which is that, for a movie that was supposed to be Gacy versus Dahmer, you don't actually get that until the very, 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 very end. But at least you do get it. It's not like Geek Maggot Bingo, where there's no geeks, there's no maggot, there's no bingo.
Or Krampus versus Bigfoot, where they don't fight at all.
They don't fight at all.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. They don't verse each other. They just talk to each other.
So at least they finally give it to you.
Yeah. So I mean, they give it to you, but that was sort of. I will admit that was sort of weak sauce. Their fighting scenes, because it just sort of.
Oh yeah.
Like it didn't really like, and then really, was it the X-13 comes in and just kills them. So it was really X-13 versus Dahmer and Gacy.
Yeah.
There were way too many people trying to kill them, I think. I mean, I understand if one person fails, then send in somebody else, then that person fails, send in somebody else. But there's too many people, because I get what they're doing, because it's like a lower budget movie that you're going to film the guy who plays Dahmer on this day, you're going to film the guy who plays Gacy on this day, and then on the third day, you're going to film them fighting in the house. So I get that, but it would have been nice, since they did bring up Freddy versus Jason, if maybe they had a couple interactions together, just throughout the movie, just to,
Right. Because they didn't show up till the end, and then it was almost like, oh, so we were both here to kill the doctor, right? Who we didn't even talk about the doctor, but like the doctor there, which he didn't really have. I mean,
He didn't matter.
He didn't really matter, which is funny because, like, I guess you were supposed to be like, oh my god, I can't believe he's kidnapped, but like the whole time I'm like, I don't care,
nobody cares.
Like, yeah, it didn't matter, but he was there, and so that was the whole thing. The whole point was they're both going to go there and kill him. They didn't care, like, and then they what is it? Gacy was like, oh, we could share him. And Dahmer's just like, I'm not sharing him. I was here first. I called dibs.
I will say I thought the acting was pretty good. I mean, considering that this is very one-dimensional, cartoony, you're not really going to get much of a range out of these guys. But at least, I personally wasn't bored by them when they actually talked and when they actually did stuff. Same thing with the Colonel, who was just way over the top. The chick with the nose and the cigar. And she was like, what was it when she was freaking out about the ninjas? Shut.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, Wile E. Coyote.
Well, I'm thinking, because of the type of film that it is, that was probably written for a man.
I think it was too, because they kept calling her sir.
Yeah, and I think that they just brought in the woman and didn't change it to be funny.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like, well, let's just get a woman and we just won't change anything.
And it did sort of make me laugh. I don't know. I liked her.
Oh, I did. I liked it. I mean, I actually think a woman smoking a cigar is kind of sexy. So,
finally, there's my one pet peeve that I always have, Moody, is that whenever there's like movies showing military or a military base, what do? They always have that same fucking drum thing. Oh, for Christ's sakes.
Or like the offices always have like a map or something, and all this other stuff. Like, it just looks all kind of goofy. But I don't know. She that stuff didn't bother me. I liked her reactions, like interactions with Jed Rowan. Together they worked really well. I mean, all in all, like I said, from start to finish, I was just intrigued by it. I wanted more. You guys wanted less.
I wish she had showed up and had a fist fight with both Gacy and Dahmer. That would have been more fun.
Yeah, she is the one who showed up instead of X-13. But that would actually made more sense too. Like, I mean, I was like, why don't they call the military to kill these things?
They call the police to do something about it.
Well, then, I mean, why not bring in Charles Manson then? If you're going to. Why keep bringing in ninjas? I know it's meant to be funny or trauma-like or whatever. Yeah. Why? So either just keep it as Dahmer and Gacy and have the redneck guy fight them at the end to do the 3,
Yeah.
and then bring in and then go, well, shit, the redneck guy failed. You know what we got to do? We got to bring out somebody who's on their same level. We need somebody to think like they do. How do you kill a serial killer? You get a serial killer.
Once again,
let's get Charlie out there.
They didn't know that this other guy was coming. You know, they didn't know that guy was coming because that guy was talking to God. You know, the redneck
but then
guy.
Just use him because they could have done more stuff with him, and then it's almost like the director knew Ethan Phillips and said, "Hey, I know the guy from Star Trek.
Right.
Where can I fit him in here?" And also, and we'll have him be Corn Man or something.
The director also did Dahmer, but he also did he was Ringo. He was the redneck.
Yeah, he was Ringo
guy.
too.
So which I was like, wait, is he going to be fighting himself? I thought that would have been a cool thing, but then that
would have been funny. They'd done like a split screen thing. That would have been funny.
Yeah, but they didn't do that.
Just had some guy in like a like a blonde wig, you know.
For shoot him from the shoulder. So
not even close to the same height. That would have been funny.
That would have been hilarious.
Well, we were talking about Star Trek earlier, so it would have been very Captain Kirk, because whenever Kirk fought himself, it was always a guy in a bad Kirk wig. You know, as they turned, there'd be William Shatner, then they go back to the stunt double.
Or you know, I was thinking Ed Wood and his chiropractic guy, you know, posing.
I love that. So I used to have on my wall a still of him coming out of the crypt, and he's got the cape up, because I love that he did that so much. I mean, I love Plan 9 to begin with.
I know.
But to me, that was pure brilliance. You know, that was and he just looked great.
I know. If nobody ever told me that, I never would have picked that up, you know, because I just don't notice that shit.
You got to pick it up because he looks nothing like Lugosi.
Nothing like him at all.
He's like 2 feet taller.
Yes.
It's okay. Just keep it up like that. Nobody will notice.
It's all about the big pictures. Nobody notices the details.
All right, guys. I think we've come to the end. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss? Because I think we pretty much talked everything about it. You know.
Well, I have a question. What else has Ford Austin done? Like writer director type of thing?
Okay, so he's done a lot of stuff independently that he's mainly an actor, I think, but he does a lot of directing as well. He's acted in 109 films.
Oh, geez.
He was pretty good in this, as far as he's the Dahmer
guy,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job with that.
So he, especially back in the early 2000s, he was in Blood Mask, The Possession of Nicole Lemeru, Deadly Culture, which I think was produced by...
so is Blood Mask. Yeah, David Sterling.
Yeah. I think he was a David Sterling guy. He did a movie that I saw years ago that I think Chris Watson produced or something, because I had them on my radio show. Yeah, he was an executive producer, called Evil Ever After, and it starred Randall Malone, I believe.
I own that movie.
Yeah. Brad Paulson.
It sits right next to this movie.
Joe Estevez narrates. It's I think
Joe Estevez.
Love Joe Estevez.
Yeah, Randall Malone's in it. So we're eventually going to do that on Indie Film Cafe at some point, because I really, really love that movie. And I remember they sent me like a screener copy. I just got to find it. But I'm sure I could find it somewhere else too. Or I could ask Brad, if he sent me a copy. Then he was in a movie called Slaughter Party, which also was done by these guys, I think, Andrew, and he was in Creepies too. He's in a bunch of stuff. Directing wise, he's done 39 movies. I think a lot of them are like shorts. But then the rest are features. I think he did Curse of Lizzie Borden, which was David Sterling.
David Sterling. I own that. Yeah.
So yeah, you own another Ford Austin movie. He did a movie called Falling Down, which is 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Falling
so
Down?
If you thought this one was long.
Michael Douglas?
No, not that.
Oh
Not
no,
that
no, no,
one.
no. That was Joel Schumacher. So
Yeah.
No, Falling Down. This is 2010, same year, and I don't know what it's about. It's an action drama thriller, and doesn't have any
about a
good.
man who can't take it anymore and decides to go into LA and start shooting things up.
It's got Jed Rowan as the amazing bum. So I don't know. It sounds like fun. I don't. 2 hours and 4 minutes though. It's a lengthy
That's a
movie.
little much. Yeah.
He did a movie called Aliens versus Assholes. So that sounds like fun.
Okay.
Disney.
What? Disney?
Sounds like Disney.
Has a thing for asses, apparently.
No, there you go. So there you go. There's a bunch of stuff he's done. So he's sort of at some point or another has, went out and made his little movies and whatnot. And I forgot that when I first picked this up that he directed it, because I thought Chris Watson directed it, but Chris, I think, had not the greatest time directing Zombiegeddon, and he was more like, I like writing and producing more than directing,
Like it's not much fun sometimes.
Well, it's just it's a lot of work, and if you don't want to do it, like if people are just, like it's just a lot of work, some people
it takes a certain personality, and it doesn't matter if it's low budget or big budget, and it takes a certain ego to direct something. So that's why you have so many one-time directors, and why actors don't direct more than one movie at a lot of the times is they're like, I want to direct, and then they direct and they're like, oh crap, this sucks. And it's because it's a personality and an ego thing.
Yep, exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think Chris is a really nice guy and did not want. I think he had done one other movie that he directed. He sent it to me years ago, and I loved it. But it was not a horror film, I don't think, and it wasn't. It was more like a drama. But these are a lot of fun to me. So I don't know. Like, I think from the beginning, I was maybe even a little biased watching it because I just really enjoy those guys.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy those guys. Yeah. So from the very beginning, I knew I was going to like this, like
sounds like we're about the time to give our scores.
Yep. So Paul, explain to everybody about the stinkometer.
All right. Well, it's very easy. We rate 1 to 10, where the 1 is the least amount of stink and 10 is a big old steaming cow pie of stink, and all the numbers in between, and you can go a half step if you feel so inclined. And then we take our 3 scores, we total it up, and then we compare it to the scores for the other movies we've done over the season, and we find out what was the stinkiest movie.
All right. So I guess I'm gonna go last because I've already told Paul my pick, and I have not actually changed it, so he knows. But John, what would you say?
I'm like I said, I'm in the middle of you guys, so I'm going with 5.
A 5? He's bringing it the same as Alien Beast. He's rating this as Alien Beast.
Wow, that's amazing.
Back then I did not truly understand the stinkometer. I would probably give that a different review. It took me a while to get what you guys were doing. To me, 1 is bad and 10 is good. And so I finally understood what it was. But I think with this is that I didn't hate it. I mean, it's as we've pointed out, it's acting is fine. It's directing is fine. The editing is fine. The lighting is fine. The sound is fine. Everything is fine. I just think it's too long. I mean, knock it down to like 85 minutes, maybe 80. But I'm in the middle of you guys. So I may watch it again if somebody wanted to. So I would give it like a 5.
Okay. That's fair enough. What do you say, Paul?
Well, I didn't hate it, so it's not going to get a 10 out of me. I have seen plenty of movies that are worse than this. It's pretty bad, though. Like I said, to me, it was just sloppy and ill put together, and it could have been a lot more interesting. So I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
That's fair, but I definitely not going to go that route, and I'm going to go very much, even smaller. So I'm going to say 2. I Yeah.
I know. Ugh.
John's look on his face was the
Wow.
same that Paul had when
I
I
got like
told him.
whiplash, from that.
But no, it's true. I like I said,
So
I could
you're
watch
putting
this
this
over
in
and
the
over again.
same territory as Gamebox 1.0.
Yes, I am.
Wow.
And maybe like even arcade and stuff like that, where I can just watch this movie over and over again and really enjoy it.
It's not the first time. You did put White Wolves in pretty low as well.
Yeah, and Lunatic's a love story and stuff like
That's
that.
a fun one though.
But like that's the thing. Like I had fun, So when I watch a movie like this and I say, man, this is something I could actually enjoy over and over again, that's when I go low, and everything. Or even looking at the stuff that even like listening to you guys say the stuff that was was sloppily done, I still enjoyed it. Like that stuff didn't bother me because at the end of the day, it was just a silly movie. If this were a serious film about Gacy and Dahmer, I would have hated it, or whatever. But since it was so kind of slapsticky and silly, and to me, like maybe it didn't go as far like that, like Paul would have probably wanted. But like stuff you mentioned, Paul, I think Paul, when you said like where she was all saying like fuck, 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 or whatever, the military lady, she was all freaking out. That stuff cracked me up. And I was just like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? I enjoy this. So I don't know. I enjoyed it all.
Fair enough.
I mean, we all have, this is why I was excited when John was like, oh, I find this boring. I'm like, oh, good. I can talk about something, because I don't like having movies where like I see some of my friends, who will post something and then everybody will agree with them. And then I disagree with them and they're like, well, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, I mean, I feel like I'm right about this.
You can't be wrong about your opinion as long as you support it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard that before. And I think people who love Hitler, I think their opinion is wrong.
Right.
Their opinion's not wrong. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Can't really have a wrong opinion. You can just have an uneducated, ignorant, stupid opinion.
No, it's true. That's true. So it's not wrong. It's just stupid. There you go. But no. But John's disagreeing
You could
with
say,
that.
well, there's wrong and there's incorrect. I think that's where it's being conflated. There's morally wrong, and then there's incorrect, which are not quite the same thing.
Right. Anyway, off that topic. Going back to this, I just enjoyed it. So I'm glad you guys watched it. I'm glad that John even said that he would watch it again.
I would not watch this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you bought it for $1, so
I'm begrudging that $1.
Really? Wow, man, that's harsh, dude.
I know.
I can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm glad I got to see it. And I'm glad we got to review it because, well, it got it out of Paul's closet, and so
yeah, you got me looking in one of my boxes that I'd forgotten about. So I found a couple movies in there.
Yeah,
so.
There you go. So that was a good thing that came from this for Paul's sake. But it also was good because then we all got to see, because I hadn't seen it yet. John hadn't seen it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't know, but it's the difference. Like, this is the difference between like Killer Biker Chicks, which we all hated and thought was boring. But I hadn't seen that until I watched it before and I was like, oh, and I was like, well, I kind of want to do it because it's one of those movies that doesn't get talked about, and stuff. And we did it, but it was hard to watch, and I found that to be boring.
That's the difference. I mean, I may not have liked Gacy versus Dahmer, but it was not just a boring, horrible waste of time like Killer Biker Chicks. So. Yeah,
and the comedy had some funny bits to it, or whatever. I thought so, at least. I was cracking up. So I'll watch this over and over again.
I laughed out loud once. I think I LOL'd once.
Well, there you go. So anyway, thank you, John, for coming on and being our guest.
Of course.
I don't know if we'll have you on one more time before the end of the year, but if not, thank you so much, because this is toward the end of the year, that this will be out. So we really appreciate you coming on. And
But
Of course.
season 6 is coming up fast.
it is. It's going to be. It'll be before you
Oh,
know
I got
it.
some ripe ones to share for season 6. Trust me.
Oh boy. We're like I feel like he's being nice right now, but he got mad at me about Maradonia, by the way. John. He was like, "Oh, so you're torturing me for making you sit through Turkish Star Wars. Well, I'm going to torture you now."
And Jonathan and I became a little obsessed with that because we were looking up who the girl was and watching her music videos.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, which I was kind of disappointed that I didn't have Paul on the show with you before, because Paul was going down, because we did have it later. We recorded it later, and Paul was going down that rabbit hole. So you guys can check that podcast out. That one got a 30 for sure. This I knew was not going to get a 30, but I thought it was going to get higher than it did.
And at least these guys, they didn't. Their idea wasn't to rip anybody off. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's original for what it is. I mean, it's I mean,
they try to just have fun and make a good,
it's
make
a versus movie. That's the whole thing. Who would win, John Rambo or John McClane? That type of thing. Rambo versus John McClane.
I think John McClane.
Rambo versus Gacy.
Rambo versus there you go. There's a sequel right there.
Shaq versus Snoopy.
I'm bummed that we never got Dahmer versus Gacy in space. Like that would have been fun. But whatever. What can you do?
I mentioned on a video that I did for my channel. I said I don't care what you guys say, meaning everybody out there. I love if it says in space. I will watch it if it says in space. If it's Freddy in space, I'll watch it. If it's Jason in space, I'll watch it. If it's
wasn't Machete supposed to go to space?
The third film was supposed to be Machete in space. Yeah,
I don't know if they're still going to do that or not, but that would have been awesome.
I doubt it.
What about Dahmer versus Gacy 3, Season of the Witch?
Or how about
I don't know if that would work. Are they wearing the mask?
Why not?
Doesn't matter. In 3D for the third one. It's always a 3D one too.
Well, how about Amityville Dahmer versus Gacy?
Amityville Dahmer versus Gacy doll.
Or Gacy Shark.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch that.
So it could have been Dahmer versus Gacy, and they're fighting in the house, and then the camera pulls back from the house and reveals that it's the Amityville house.
Oh no, I don't like that.
That's the twist at the end.
No,
so that they're actually in Amityville.
Nope. I've already told you. I've already told you. I hate that. But
the dawn.
All right, so we really appreciate you coming on the show, and everybody else who listened. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please check us out. I think it's going to be next week is going to be Paul's episode, and we haven't even gotten over there. So we haven't, that's going to be.
Our episodes are getting longer and longer because we don't have just Jen to wrap our knuckles with a ruler.
I know. Well, I think Maradonia was the longest one we've done.
Oh yeah,
because that was over like 2 hours long.
Man, it took a long time to get through that.
Yeah, so there you go. It feels like that needs to be like the commentary track for the movie.
Hey, I may not have liked Dahmer versus Gacy much, but you were a lot better than Maradonia.
Yeah, or much of the 30s that we watched. So
hey man,
far.
I will stand by Miss Werewolf till I die.
Or Liking Colony? No.
Yeah, maybe not. But John Ward, you have got to see Miss Werewolf. We get you over here. We're going to sit you down. You're going to watch it, and you're going to be amazed. Your jaw's going to hit the ground.
We're not going to show you the whole thing because it's over 2.5 hours long. No.
The whole thing, baby.
No.
The whole experience.
No.
Oh,
I'm not. You can do that. I'm not going to come. I'm done.
We'll give you a call when the beginning part's done.
No. All right. Anyway, we're done with this. So thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Join us next week for Paul's episode. Until then, everybody have a fantastic Indie Film Cafe life. Bye.
Bye.